Are you excited for Christopher Nolan's adaptation of the Odyssey? Some people online are not. The armor is wrong. The accents are modern. And when rumors spread that Helen of Troy was reportedly being played by Lupita Nyong'o, one Devour post called it an insult to the author. Elon Musk replied that Nolan has lost his integrity. The purest case is simple. There's an original Odyssey. Homer wrote it. Nolan desecrated it. One problem. The scholars who have spent their careers on this text concluded, about a century ago, that there is no original Odyssey. There never was. And the original, that everyone online is so furiously defending, it was created by specific people with budgets and political agendas. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly who made it, and why its defenders are still working for them, for free, 25 centuries later. In the 1920s, the Harvard classicist Milman Parry noticed something strange with Homer's language. Repeated phrases like swift-footed Achilles, or wine dark sea, are not just literary flourishes, but building blocks. They're part of an interlocking system for creating epic poetry live, in front of an audience, not writing it at a desk. Parry's student Albert Lord took the idea and traveled to Yugoslavia. He found and recorded real oral bards who were still practicing their craft. Lord discovered that none of the bards ever performed the same poem twice. They did not memorize a text. They remake the story fresh at every performance, even as they rely on the same basic oral formulas. Greek epics work the same way. The shared elements were the characters and the story beats. A guide in Odysseus, a war at Troy, a very long way home. Every bard went off that and produced a different story. How different did they get? Ancient Greeks even had a now lost sequel to the Odyssey. It was called the Telegony. In it, Odysseus leaves Ithaca again, remarries, and gets killed by Telegonus, his son with the witch Circe. Then, Telegonus marries Penelope, and Telemachus marries Circe. If a streaming service pitched that tomorrow, the comment section would declare the end of Western civilization. And Helen, the casting choice that got everyone upset, in the 6th century BC, the poet Stesichorus published a famous retraction that claimed that Helen never went to Troy at all. The gods took her to Egypt and put a phantom in her place. Plato quotes it approvingly. Herodotus decided the Egyptian version was the historically accurate one. Euripides even turned it into a full tragedy. So where did the single official Odyssey come from? It was created, twice. Athenian tradition credits Peistratus, the tyrant of Athens, with commissioning the first standardized text in the 6th century BC. At his city's great festival, performers were legally required to recite Homer in a fixed, approved order to promote the glory and prestige of Athens. Centuries later, the Library of Alexandria finished the job. The library was not just a building full of scrolls. It was a cultural weapon used by the Ptolemies, Greek kings ruling Egypt, to consolidate intellectual authority over the ancient world. Its head librarian, a scholar named Aristarchus, carved the poem into the 24 books we use today. He also created the obolos, an editorial mark placed beside any line he deemed to be inauthentic. Think about that for a second. The lone perfect author that the purists were defending was not discovered inside the text. He was an editorial assumption opposed on it from outside. And the earliest papyri we have found proved exactly what that assumption erased. They are wilder than our standard text, full of variant lines and multiple verses. The messy, multiple Homer is not a corruption of the original. It is the original. The clean, tidy text is the edit. There is one approved timeline, one approved version of every character maintained by whoever holds power. And I mean that literally. The ancient biographer Plutarch records that Athens and the city of Megara, in the midst of a dispute over the island of Salamis, both cited specific lines of Homer as title deeds to the land, and each accused the other of forging them. One disputed line of poetry, almost a war. That is not how people treat a campfire story. That is how they treat a property record. And that brings us back to the fans. Henry Jenkins is a media scholar who, in the early 1990s, sought to study fandom as a serious field. He found that the fans appoint themselves the custodian of canon and police it harder than the actual owners do. Look at what is happening in those comment sections. Nobody is paying those people. They're posting insults to the author on behalf of a man who cannot be located, defending a text he never wrote down, guarding a standardization project commissioned by an Athenian tyrant and completed by palace librarians 25 centuries ago. The top Homer scholars today are now uncanonizing Homer. Harvard's Homer Multitext Project is a digital edition that refuses to print one official text. It shows the variants side by side, papyrus by papyrus, breaking Alexandria's neat, tidy control. The most rigorous scholarship and the most freewheeling remix culture have landed in the same place. The official timeline was the glitch. the campfire was always the truth. So no, Nolan is not betraying Homer, or any of the bards who sang those poems for centuries before anyone bothered to write a single word down. He is betraying a librarian. The original belongs to everyone who ever told those stories. And the filmmaker with the $100 million budget just pulled up a seat at the campfire.